Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Riot Act Podcast with me, Remfry Deadman, and today I am talking via the medium of modern technology, thank goodness we're in the 21st century, to Lauren Kashan from Sharptooth. Have I pronounced your surname correctly?
Kashan. I'm not that fancy. I was like, Kashan sounds very...
I made it very, very British there, didn't
Everybody, it's funny because everyone does that. A lot of people do that. It's pretty, and I'm like, no, I'm a bullshit American. It's just Kashan.
I did not make that insinuation at all.
It's fine. I did, so it's fine.
How do we find you today, Lauren?
Actually, really well. Like, yeah.
Good.
Especially considering the times.
Oh, the times. What are you referring to specifically there?
When
because
I
there are
say
so
the
many
time-
things.
So when I say the times, I'm just referring to coronavirus because that is, I feel like that is the only thing kind of going on right now that is specifically unique to right now, because a lot of everything else that people are finally fucking paying attention to has been going on for fucking ever. So yeah. I do not group that in when I say the times, because we have been in those times for a long time.
A long time, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I am generally not going to talk about coronavirus at all, because I think there are actually far more pertinent matters to talk about, especially, I mean, it might come up a little bit, but I'm not planning to talk about it. So, and a lot of those records you cover on your new album, the second album from Sharptooth, I believe, if that's second full length, Transitional Forms, which myself and my co-host Steve reviewed a couple of weeks ago. We were very, very, very enthusiastic about it, I have to say. I would recommend that anyone listening to this, if you haven't heard it, just stream it or preferably buy it right bloody now, because it's absolutely brilliant. I think one of the reasons that myself and Steve really responded so positively to it is because myself in particular, I don't think Steve feels this as strongly as I do, but I've been a massive fan of heavy music my entire life. It means an awful lot to me, as it does to many of us. And my feeling is there's a real lack of quality in heavy music in recent years. There's a real dearth of there's an awful lot of very generic formulaic shit that is coming out of heavy music. And listening to Transitional Forms, I felt this kinship, because it felt to me like you and the rest of the guys in the band probably feel this. I mean, you've kind of already confirmed it from your nodding along to me saying this. You feel that way as well, I'm assuming.
Oh, God, yeah. I don't think that, anybody is more critical of, like, the state of the scene than we are.
Right.
And frankly, it is only because we believe in, like, the power of, like, this kind of music and how it can be put. It just has, like, so much potential to do good in the world, and so much, like, motivating power. It's powerful music. Like, heavy music is powerful, and people feel empowered through it. So I want people to be able to have that experience.
It's visceral.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons that we are, like, so aggressively critical, because we just see, like, the potential in heavy music for so many different kinds of people that it's like we're doing ourselves a disservice by, like, putting ourselves into a box. Like, I feel like every day the definition of what people are willing to consider, like, hardcore, like, becomes narrow and narrower until there's not going to be anything in it. So if that's what you want,
I'm doing
cool.
a hard.
I don't either.
I
know you don't. That's the metaphorical you.
We talk about this all the time. We talk about the narrowing of genre. We talk about genre boundaries a lot, and like how it's depressingly narrow with some heavy acts, and it is predominantly heavy acts where you have these kind of invisible barriers that are brought up, and it gets very boring and very stale. I mean, we don't see any of that on this Sharptooth record at all. But another thing which seems really apparent, and you make your feelings on this very, very clear from the opening song, is people in metal or heavy music or hardcore or whatever, and I'm being incredibly general here because I do want to point out that there is plenty of great heavy music, and there always is, but there is
hashtag not all metal bands.
Hashtag not all metal bands. But there is an awful lot. There are an awful lot of people in heavy bands with absolutely fuck all to say. You have very strong feelings on that, which is very obvious. But I just want to get your sort of perspective on that. So, without naming names and so on and so forth. You don't need to name names or anything like that.
I mean, I don't need to. It's like it would almost be pointless of me to, because there's so many bands that kind of fit in that, under that umbrella, that it's like if I start naming bands, and we're going to be here for a long time, and it's going to be a very boring show. But for me, my primary issue is the fact that, like, okay, you know, like, not everybody's subject matter is necessarily going to have, like, universal pull or universal appeal. And, like, it is just totally up to you, like, how you want to do your art. And if, like, and people can tell when shit is not genuine. So it would be kind of silly for people who don't actually care to, like, pretend to in their art. But... and I also don't ever want to dissuade people from just making art that just, like, makes them feel good and gives them catharsis and release. The issue that I have is when those same people, like, then turn around and have an issue with the content that I'm putting out. So these same people trying to come, like, at me and be like, keep the politics out of music, like garbage fucking like that. And, like, that tends to be the thing that people get the most upset about with us, is that we have opinions.
Yes, yeah, sorry.
So
yeah, go on.
Yeah. And I mean, that in and of itself is like, I'm appalled because I can't, it's like, it breaks my heart that, like, the state of the scene today in metalcore and hardcore is that bands with opinions are considered, like, corny or, like, less, like, cool or, like, less hardcore.
Like they're ruining the party almost.
Yeah,
hey, we're here to have fun and sink some beers and yada yada yada. Yeah.
Which, like, and here's the thing, I am all for the party. I am a lush and I'm a party bitch. But, like,
I am the biggest party bitch.
Yeah, hell yeah, party bitch squad, love it. So, like, it's like I'm fine with escapist music and, like, irreverent music, and, like, the majority of what I listen to is, like, pop and dance music. So, like, I'm very, very fine with that. I'm just not fine with people then turning around and, like, biting at the bands who are trying to use their platform to do something good. And there is a part of me that very genuinely, like, is jealous of those other bands. Like, I just am. Because who wouldn't be? It must be so nice to just get to, like, put out a record and not, like, have people have an immediate visceral reaction to your existence in their music scene. Like, most of the guys I know, like, in bands, they put out a record and they don't need to worry that they're going to get death threats. They don't need to.
They look like me, and they're hairy and they have a penis, basically.
Yeah, there you go.
Is it? Yeah.
But, like, the fact that it does seem like some bizarre litmus tests are being, like, performed within this scene, I'm just like, let's just fucking stop this nonsense. Like, too many people have forgotten their roots, and that makes me extremely angry. Especially when you get, like, these young, like, kids who are, like, new to the hardcore scene, and they think that the whole point of hardcore or metalcore is the aesthetic and like the fashion associated with it, which, like, those things are so fun and, like, great, and enjoy it, like, have a great time. But oh my God, like, when people get on stage who have something that they need to say and that they think is important and relevant, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up and let people have opinions in this scene. Oh my God. Yeah.
I think sometimes people who use that excuse of kind of like, I just want to have fun, or they're not bearing in mind, I mean, just you're not asking for everyone to have a political message. You're not asking for everyone to you've just said that you predominantly listen to pop music and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that music. I'm not saying let's ban Andrew WK or anything like that. It's just I mean, there was that guy on it was kind of made the news, that guy who complained to Tom Morello and said, why I don't like it when you're political in your music. It's like, how have you not got this yet?
Right? It's, oh my God. And so I see this happen with like my favorite bands all the time. Literally all the time. You go into like the comment section of like one of their videos and people will be like, I used to love this band and then they got really political. Nah. I'm like, there's like songs about communism on their first record. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, just listen. Read a lyric.
Look at the fucking cover of the debut Rage Against the Machine record. How the fuck have you not got this political statement? It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, and to have and it's like that, and then to have the gall to say that in any genre that is adjacent to punk music is like so embarrassing.
Yeah,
it is
know your
like
history.
It's like, have you, like, how dare you come into the hardcore scene and try to erase like its political roots? I feel like. And this is just kind of like a thing I always think in my head. I'm just like, I feel like fucking Fugazi would spit in y'all's faces right now because you're a fucking embarrassment to hardcore and to metalcore. So, but my band's the one that's corny. Cool. Got it.
Are there things that you are happy to share in this medium that have happened, say, in the last couple of weeks since the record's come out, that are examples of that, or even from before then?
Oh, I have some funny ones, actually.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like, I swear to, like, every fucking woman in music has been asked if they're like somebody's girlfriend or if they're the fucking merch partisan or some shit, whatever. Like, there's bullshit like that you just kind of go like, and whatever, and then you just kind of like
the groupie assumption's quite common. So apparently,
it's fucking silly. So that's happened a lot, and like there's just also just like things that people will like comment, and here's the thing. I have like a personal rule. I don't go and read the comments. Sometimes I play myself and then I go and read them. It's not often that I do that, but
we all have those moments of weakness. I get it.
I know it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, and you just so we don't always make the best decisions. But
no, sure.
But so this was actually, I read this like a couple of days ago. I was doing my homework and had like a music tab like up to listen to stuff, and I think it was like the lyric video for The Gray, and I was like, don't click it, bitch, don't click it, and I did. And actually it was really exciting because almost every single comment was extremely positive, which is like, like so exciting. And like, I feel like when people actually listen to the fucking music instead of just prejudging or making any assumptions about who I am or like what my band is about and what we talk about, like, I think that overwhelmingly people are like, this is great. But there was one person who literally commented like, oh, look, a woman screaming in a band. What are you screaming about? Having your period? I was like, that's a comment someone actually wrote? Wow. Like, I was just like, you didn't, I mean, you didn't even like try to hide that as not being just like blatant misogyny. And it was even better because then I also saw that a friend of mine had seen that and had responded to it and literally had said like, wow, I love the smell of misogyny in the morning. Like, And it was just so funny because it just happened to be like one of my close friends that I happened to see her comment on the, and it was just like a hilarious and fortuitous and funny experience. Usually, like, yeah, it used to be that I would like go and read the comments and then be like, fuck me. Because human brains do that thing where you can read 70 very nice things and one bad thing, and your brain will only hold on to the bad thing. It's a survival mechanism, actually. My brain is very good at it. If I was in hunter-gatherer like society, I'd be killing it right now.
Can you explain the survival mechanism thing? I haven't heard that theory. How is it a survival mechanism?
Because if you can remember like things that are being perceived by your brain as like being a threat, you're less likely to get hurt by them.
Cool. Yeah, that makes a total sense.
Yeah.
I feel a bit silly. Yeah. So your brain is remembering the dangerous stuff as opposed to the positive stuff isn't sort of needed.
Yeah.
So it's filtering that stuff out. I see.
And in modern day society, the dangerous stuff isn't, lions and tigers and bears like coming to eat you or like people being sick and dying. The dangerous stuff is just people being assholes on social media.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my co-host Steve, he wrote a piece for Metal Hammer magazine. We both write for Metal Hammer from time to time, and he wrote a piece. God, when was this? I want to say about 18 months ago. I'll send you a link at some point.
Yeah.
Basically, just saying that we've espoused this theory several times on this show that women. Not just in heavy music, but in all music, really. Fiona Apple is a really good example outside of the heavy music genre. Phoebe Bridgers.
Yes.
I fucking adore Phoebe Bridgers. It feels like women have so much more to say at the moment than men. The conversation is far, far, far more interesting. And that's a massive generalization. There are definitely men who are writing decent lyrics, but it seems when you get a pissed off woman out front, or they don't even have to be pissed off, to be honest. But certainly lyrically, certainly at the moment, women seem to have far more interesting things to say than men do. And my feeling towards that is because when you subjugate a certain section of society for so long, they're going to come out and get furious about that. But I actually wanted to hear your view on that and what you thought about that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's always any woman will tell you in almost any respect of their lives that you just have to work twice as hard to get like half as far. It is always 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because like even when you do everything right, that 1 step back is gonna be like societal misogyny. Like there's always going to be that extra step, that extra hurdle that you are having to jump through in order to be getting equivalent respect that like my male counterparts would be getting. There's always people, here's the thing, especially like my experience in heavy music is that the expectation is that I'm going to be bad. So I walk onto a stage and there's an immediate audience expectation going, what's some girl doing here? Like, and you can see it in people's faces. Like, people who haven't, like, seen my band, whatever, like, you can see it in people's faces as soon as you get on stage. And, like, the guys will, like, they'll, like, look at each other like, oh, what's this gonna be? And then I open my mouth. And then you watch them and then you watch them recoil in fear.
But that's so much more powerful than like. So I'm a far bigger guy. I'm a bigger person than you are. I mean in a physical sense, not in a sort of brain sense.
Who even am I? Fuck me.
It coming out of me, it wouldn't be unexpected, but it's even more powerful if you'll forgive me for saying so, coming out of a smaller framed woman. You know, it just is. And that's even cooler.
Yeah, I feel that way, and I kind of like, I lean into that. I'm like,
I think you play up to it. And from what I've seen in the videos and stuff, and I think that's cool.
Well, it's either, like, for me, it was either, like, get frustrated every time I go on stage and like, seeing that people, are they're having the exact same reaction that they have literally fucking everywhere because like nothing's changed. I'm still a woman. Like this is So I'm like very like used to it. Like I would be shocked if like kind of if like I just started getting on stages and that stopped like being like people just stopped being like kind of surprised. It's never like, oh my God. It's always like, huh, okay. So it's like, again, and that's like kind of what I think some people don't understand about misogyny is that it doesn't have to always be like, oh my God, misogyny. Sometimes it's, oh, okay. That's, and that's what people mean when they like talk about like microaggressions. So yeah, I kind of like basically it was like if you can't beat them, like join them. So yeah, I totally like lean into that, and that's what's made like getting to like authentically present as feminine as I am, like in the last couple of years, just so much more rewarding too, because it's like, again, there's a different expectation if you are getting on stage and are presenting as like tomboy girl, masculine girl, rather than like very feminine, like sexual. Like people are not comfortable with femininity and sexuality in like metalcore and hardcore coming from women. So yeah, I totally love leaning into that now. Like just to kind of like flip it. Like there was a this is so stupid. There was a fucking bit from Curb Your Enthusiasm for a long time, and one of the characters would go, flip that shit on him. And so that's like what I just like do in my head. I'm like, I'll just flip that shit on him. Whatever. Like this is.
I think. Yeah. The Say Nothing video is a perfect example of that. Just the manner in which you're performing and playing up to the camera is that flipping it on its head, isn't it? I think.
Yes, I wanted that to be the most feminine music video that I could come up with. That was the goal, because I was like, this isn't a thing people are experiencing in this scene. They're not experiencing a feminine, like aggressive femininity, aggressive feminine sexuality. Like that's not a thing anybody in this scene is like being exposed to within the scene. So those are things that I think are awesome and like exciting and cool, and like in the context of metalcore and hardcore, they're somewhat subversive. So like that makes it even more fun. Like, so yeah. That's been such a great experience. It was very important to me to do that music video and to do it that way.
It's great. It's really cool.
Thank
I mean, I very seldom am even bothered by music videos, to be totally honest. But I just saw that one and I was like, that is fucking cool. I loved it. I thought it was really, really cool. It does. I've got a few female friends who front bands in this heavy scene. And a lot of them have spoken to me in the past about their experiences where they feel like they had to dress like one of the guys.
Yes. Holy shit. My whole fucking 20s. I had a uniform. You don't understand. Yeah. I called it my uniform. It was black tank top, black skinny jeans, black combat boots, and I shit you not, like 8 pairs of each. It was like a fucking cartoons like closet when you opened it, like in like where it's the same outfit just 9 times, because in cartoons they never change. That was me. I was that fucking cartoon character. I just never changed my fucking outfit because I was afraid if I did anything girlier, and it wasn't even like necessarily a like conscious thought. But, like, there were conscious thoughts about, like, oh, that looks a little, like, that's a little, like, showing too much skin. Like, maybe don't, like, I didn't even wear a crop top for the first time until, like, the end of fucking, like, 2017 or some shit. Because I just was so paranoid about how people would treat me if I dressed in a way that presented more feminine and more sexual. I had already gotten feedback. But that, like, when I did do that, people, like, found it noteworthy, which is, like, there's a part of me that's, like, I guess that's flattering, but then there's another part of me that's, like, that shouldn't be noteworthy. Nothing about me wearing, like, leggings should be noteworthy. I literally had, oh, my God, one of the first times it was the first time I ever wore, like, a pair of, like, leggings to a show. I wasn't playing. I was just going to the show. And the owner of the venue made a comment about, and like this was a friend of mine, made a comment about how like, oh, like you can't wear those leggings anymore here, like implying that I was dressing in a way that was sexual and was making like, and was noteworthy because of it. And I was just kind of like, I don't like this. I don't like that I'm even having to think about what people are going to think about my outfit. Like, that's like what guy is like, I feel like most like straight white dudes, you're not really worried about what you're wearing to the show. Like,
I was about to say, it's something that I can't really relate to, if I'm honest. I can sympathize, but I can't empathize, you know.
Yeah.
Because I have, you know, I'm 35 years old and I don't think that thought has ever crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
It's,
you know?
and that's how it should be. So it's like, I don't ever want people to feel like guilty for having like privilege or something. Like, that's not the point of that. But it's like, that's how it should be. And it's how it should be for like everybody. So like,
for everyone.
All of us should be, it's like, I should never have to worry that like, I'm going to go to the hardcore show and someone's going to think I'm a slut because like I'm wearing, I don't know, like a fucking crop top or some shit.
Yeah.
Or like someone's going to decide that like me as a person is less valuable or my opinions are less valuable because of the way that like I dress or present. And so, yeah, I've been heavily leaning into the like, I know this makes you uncomfortable. I'm going to keep fucking doing it because it makes me feel good. Like thing. So, yeah.
Well, good because... well, certainly punk music and you know what you play is an incredibly heavy version of punk is about confronting people, isn't it? And that's what it should be, right? You know, that's how
you would think.
Well,
you would think.
Yeah, and I guess I'm coming back to the same sort of topic of like there not being many bands that are, or I'd say predominantly most heavy acts don't feel a need to do that or anything like that. But it just seems really sad and tragic. And I feel like so much of that confrontation is coming from women or women who front bands rather than men, because men just seem to be still talking about like war and demons and hell. I mean, I'm getting a bit Slayer-esque there, but you know what I mean.
It's like guys can't think of any like ways that they are being oppressed to scream about in metal music. So that's why like fucking black metal exists, because they're like, we can scream about dragons. To be fair, I'm all for screaming about dragons. I'm the bitch who's screaming about velociraptors. So I pot, meat, kettle, like, but you know, that's like a bit that I don't totally believe that. Like, I'm just, that's just a joke.
And again, oh no, I know you're being tongue in cheek. And I, again, just to reiterate, there's fuck all wrong with screaming about dragons or screaming about velociraptors.
I would love to scream about dragons.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not kind of like sometimes when you make these kind of arguments, not when one makes these arguments, like you get that rhetoric back, which is like, it's like, no, we're not saying ban that shit. We're just saying it'd be nice to have more of people who actually have something to say, who are actually holding a mirror up to society and trying to say something rather than not. And as I say, I just feel like the majority of that is exciting in 2020 and for the last few years actually seems to be coming from women rather than men. But there does seem to be this, I mean, I do feel like certainly if we go back to the 80s, let's say, progress is being made, it feels like, slowly but surely. And you please feel free to disagree if you do. But it does feel like that progress is beginning to be made and these voices are beginning to come out. I suppose, do you agree with that or do you not, and what are your feelings on that?
I definitely do think that progress is being made. I just think that it's still so slow that it is like dangerous, basically. It's slow enough that like all of like things are getting better, but but like they're not getting better by fast enough to like really help a lot of people in the immediate sense, like basically at all. So like it's like, yeah, I'm out here trying to make the world a better place for like the next generation, but it's like, what about all the previous ones too? Like, how about we just like speed up this progress thing so that all of us just get to have better lives and better opportunities? So
it feels enormously gradual, and glacial, I suppose. I mean,
that's a good way to describe it.
There's the second song on the album, Mean Brain, made me wonder about, because it feels like to me that song feels like an issue about sort of self-confidence, I think it's fair to say, and how you project yourself and being worried about how you might be perceived and so on and so forth. Does that come into it as well because of all of these negative voices against what you're saying? Yeah,
sure. You like, if anybody who's like ever like felt like insecure, like your brain always remembers all the shitty things people say to you. Yeah, for
it's
me,
like you were saying before.
Yeah. So like for me, Mean Brain was just like, that is a term that I've been using like with my friends for a really long time. Basically to refer to when like when I'm having like negative self-talk, like having a day where my brain is giving me a lot of negative self-talk because of depression and anxiety. And I think that is a very universal feeling for a lot of people who have depression and anxiety, like that your brain kind of like will literally just be fucking mean to you sometimes. And like the things that I wrote that like my brain was being shitty about are those are like kind of unique to me. I'm sure that other people feel that way too, but like my loop is always like nobody likes me, everybody hates me, everyone's just tolerating me, and they're all gonna fucking leave. Like that literally is the most succinct way of explaining my anxiety and depression in conjunction with my abandonment issues.
So there's an irony there, because I suffer from mental health issues as well, and those sorts of anxiety things, so I can empathize with this a lot more. There's a sort of irony that or a really fascinating juxtaposition I find, because I do think that a lot of people have those sort of self-confidence issues who then go on to perform on stage. And I just in my work and through interviewing loads and loads of musicians, I used to be in the acting world as well, and there was loads of it in that. It's a really odd dichotomy, isn't it? That there are so many people who do have self-confidence issues, but then at the same time they want to get up in front of people and scream about those self-confidence issues. It's a bizarre dichotomy there, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, it's interesting because I like kind of know that like I have at least a layer of like self-awareness to know that those thoughts are not rational thoughts that are like not rooted in reality. I get a lot of therapy, so I can owe it to that.
It's difficult to realize that at the time, though, isn't it? That's the problem.
Totally, yeah. So and it's like, it's weird because it is kind of like in contrast to the fact that like my like even just like my personality, like I'm very like loud and open and bubbly and like extroverted and like very happy being the center of attention. Like that's so like that is a part of me, and I think that a trap that we kind of fall into as people is thinking that we are just one thing.
Yes, one-dimensional, yes.
Yeah, and it's like we are, like, the amazing thing about people is that we have parts. And so there's a lot of parts of me that are super extroverted and like being in front of people. And then there's a part of me that is terrified that all those people don't actually like me and that they're all going to leave. Like, so, and these parts can coexist. And a lot of times they'll butt heads with each other, but you can be both. Porque no los dos. That's what the record basically is just like, you're everything in between. Fuck. That's kind of what the record is.
We're a massive contradictions. Massive contradictions. And I think actually that kind of leads me quite beautifully onto the grey, where you're sort of talking about that as well, I think, in terms of how well, I think the key word for me is nuance, and how nuance seems to be lost in a lot of discussions and so on and so forth. I have plenty of examples that I could share, but I want to hear your views on that. Can you sort of explain a little bit more about what the grey is about and what that pertains to in your life?
Oh my God.
That's quite a broad question, but you can wrap it on for as long as you like. It's fine.
It is a complicated song.
It's complicated, yeah.
It's a very complicated song. It's about like different layers of different things. And it is also about just like literally like a moment in time for me. So yeah, the grey, it's called the grey because it really is about like the gray areas in like all of the different aspects of our life, whether like that is like moral gray areas or like identity adjacent gray areas or like socio-political gray areas. I think that especially in like today's times, there is an amount of societal pressure to like basically like firmly claim an identity. And I feel like that pressure, it like kind of does people a disservice because like from a kind of a young age, and I mean like this happens just like in a socially, but it's also like built into like our education system. Like at a very early age, like you're told to basically decide who you're supposed to be. You're telling a fucking like 18-year-old they're supposed to decide like what their career is going to be, what they're going to do with the rest of their life. Like it's stuff like that. And these expectations, I think, that we put on ourselves in our society are just absolutely unreasonable because that isn't how people actually fucking work. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So why do we consider our personality and our identities to be a permanent state? That doesn't make any sense when you like stop and think about it. But like we then also lean into that because we use those things to help us like make sense of the world. Like, oh, like this person is a Democrat. That means they believe this. We use it. They're mental shortcuts, basically. And it's like our brains do that automatically. That's kind of a part of human psychology, is that our brains like labels and stuff like that because it helps us feel like we can make sense of the world.
I think it helps us to try and understand, but sometimes we oversimplify things too much and misinterpret them, I think. But yes.
Exactly.
Carry on.
And that is what the gray is about. It is about how there is this, we oversimplify things. We strip it down to one thing or another thing instead of it sometimes being both, or instead of it not being any of those things, and it's like, and you can just apply this like basically to every aspect of life. And that was something that I was realizing when I was kind of grappling with like my own experiences, like with diagnoses and like doing like trauma therapy for PTSD and like stuff. And I feel like I even know that like I have fallen into like the trap of like being like, oh, I am this way because this happened to me, and almost being like a slave to that narrative. And sometimes you then look and you're like, that doesn't really apply for me anymore. Like, and I don't think that we as people give ourselves enough space to do that, for all that gray area, and we don't give other people enough space to have gray areas too. I think it's one of the biggest problems like in our modern society today, and it's one of the biggest hindrances for like real socio-political change, frankly, because people
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, people like want people to be perfect, and it's like, no, we need to stop. Like, no, I feel there's this idea right now that it's like, oh, you're either woke or you're canceled. Like, no, like doing that basically puts the concept of it basically like people will do that, and it's almost like it absolves them of having to examine like their role in like systemic oppression. And no, literally fucking nobody should be ignoring their role in systemic oppression. And that's like, we all have done it. We've all like thought things that are racist. We've all said things that are racist, homophobic, sexist. Even when like literally everybody has done something that fits into one of those categories. Like that is just true. Period. So when we stop doing this thing where we're like, oh, this person's the bad guy, point at that person, they are the bad guy, that takes the spotlight off of you looking at your own shit. And that really fucking bothers me, because you'll see a lot of people who are very willing to point fingers but not willing to do any introspection, and aren't willing to check themselves. Mm-hmm. And frankly, this was a thing that like I really started talking about a lot when stuff was going on with like Brock Turner in the news, because like it just became the cool thing. Everybody just like goes on Facebook and like posts about how Brock Turner's a rapist, and like, yeah, all of this is true. All of this should be a thing that everybody is talking about. Yeah, super here for that. But then also you can't stop there. You can't go, oh, this person's a rapist. You have to go, okay, so that person raped somebody. What have I done in my life that has contributed to rape culture and to a society where there was a young man who believed that that was okay? And if we all start doing that, like, oh my God, I swear to God, shit's gonna get better so fast. Like, I'm not fucking joking. When everybody just starts fucking checking themselves, that's when shit will change. Like,
I agree.
I feel like we're at the part of like this whole equation of people checking each other, and that is important, but we need to start flexing the muscles of checking ourselves with honesty and integrity and the intensity that task like warrants.
I don't know if you're familiar with the no, that's wonderful. I just wanted to let you go there. That was brilliant. I think my co-host Steve and myself to a degree, we commented on this quite a bit with the Lingua Ignota record. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Caligula. It's a very, very, very stark account of an abusive relationship, and it's probably one of the most powerful pieces of music I've ever heard in my life, I would say. I would recommend it. I wouldn't put it on at a party, but I'd recommend it.
Wouldn't put it on at a party?
No, I wouldn't put it on at a party. But it's an incredible piece of work, and but it kind of made us so uncomfortable because it made us actually question things in our own personal lives, which, you know, we sort of admitted on the podcast. I mean, we didn't go into the details of what they were, but, you know, but actually I think art like that is incredibly important. It's also extraordinarily uncomfortable, and I find that record incredibly uncomfortable to listen to because it's uncomfortable anyway, but it also kind of makes me have to confront my own shitty things that maybe I did in the past. I think it's also really interesting. I mean, it feels really pertinent at the moment. Obviously, we've just had all this controversy, and I think this really fits into what you're saying regarding the Harper's letter. You're aware of this, are you? The letter that came out through Harper's Bazaar, I think it's the periodical in the States, which was it's basically a open letter. Referring to cancel culture and sort of saying that we needed to have a bit more freedom to be able to express things, whilst at the same time basically not calling out people and cancelling people left, right and centre, which I think is more or less what you're saying. It's a tricky one. There are many. Yep. There are many. But basically, it's not a black and white issue. It's several shades of grey. You know, not to keep. I feel like I'm doing an ad or something, but right. You know, but yeah, but it's not as simple. Like you say, it's not just a case of going, right, there's two boxes. There's the woke box and there's the cancelled box. Let's just put everyone into these categories until everyone's been filed and sorted. That is such a basic, oversimplified way to look at it. It's absolutely insane to look at it like that. But a huge, Twitter storm particularly kicked off as a result of this letter, which has been signed by lots of academics but also people of controversy. So J.K. Rowling was one of the people who signed it, and she said she's a great author, and she's written the Harry Potter books, which everyone loves, yada yada yada. But she said some quite
she said some dubious ass shit.
Some dubious shit
is the nice way of putting it. And like, trust me, there's literally like nobody is a bigger like fan of the Harry Potter books than I am.
I love Harry Potter.
And I'm just like, bitch, you need to chill. Just like maybe talk less. Just talk less. Yeah. Like just fucking talk less. Because you're like, and that's also the thing. Like my boyfriend and I have like a kind of a running joke that we have. It's like, if you aren't being part of the solution, then just shut up and get out of the way. Just shut up and get out of the way. Like, so that the people who are doing the real productive work can actually be productive and successful. And it's like, because you, J.K. Rowling, you're still fucking talking right now. And guess what? It's not helping literally anybody. And if you have people telling you that the things you're saying that are hurting a community, even if you don't understand and you don't agree with them, why is it hard to just shut the fuck up? Like, like if somebody goes, like a friend of yours says to you, like, oh, I don't like the way that you say my name. I would prefer it's pronounced this way. Are you just going to go, well, it's spelled this way, so it should be pronounced like this? Like,
is this because I said
you're not going to say
really
that.
Posh way?
Yeah, you're not going to fucking, it's like, yeah, exactly. No, I wasn't even thinking about that. But it's like,
no, I'm joking.
But it would be like if you were like, but it looks like it's written this way. It's like, it doesn't matter, because if somebody told you not to do it because it hurts them, then that's all the reason that you need. And that's accepting, in the J.K. Rowling instance, the incredible abundance of science that says that trans lives are so fucking valid. Like, there's science. It's fucking science. Like, you can literally go and look up these things. Like, there are papers written about them. We all have Google. It's great. Go look up a fucking research paper and learn a thing or two. And that's what I mean is that it's like, no one is born woke. Like, period. That's not a thing. No one's born woke. You learn stuff gradually as you go. We've all said problematic shit. We've all done problematic things for longer than we probably should have. Like, that is just a thing that people do. So giving people space to learn that what they're doing is wrong is important, first of all. That doesn't mean
I think we need to underline that point.
Yes.
Giving people space to grow and learn. Yeah.
And here's the thing. I think that then people get like freaked out by that and say like, oh, like you're like supporting that person. It's like, no. What if I'm working to make this person not think these bad things anymore, so that they go out in the world and aren't inflicting that on people? That's what we all need to be doing. So like, there's a lot of people out there who talk about like calling in. That is like calling out. No, calling in. Yes, like bring people in and educate them. Now, there's obviously exceptions, because again, nothing is fucking black and white. So if there's like, obviously like there's a fucking like chronic rapist like in your music scene, like don't have them at your shows. Because you want to protect other people from this person, or make sure that that person basically has a fucking babysitter, or like there are ways to help people get learned and do the right thing while also still protecting the members of the community. And that does have to be the first and foremost thing, is you protect the members of the community. So you like, I get like where the canceled part came from, because it's like, okay, you want to take this toxic person out from where they are doing bad shit. Always,
the intentions are good.
Please do that. Yes, this is good. We're not saying leave leave people there to just do shit and figure it out and hurt people on the way. No. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, remove them from situations where they can continue to do the problematic behavior, and then get real fucking uncomfortable and sit down with them. And that's a thing people don't want to have to do. They don't want to have to sit down with they don't want to sit down with the fucking racist Uncle Bob. Like, they don't.
And confront their views and say, actually, this isn't right for this reason because it brings up so many issues as a result of that. Yeah. Sorry.
And you can do it from a place of love too. And I think that's a thing that people have a hard time understanding as well. Is that you can educate somebody like from a place of love. Like, I think somebody is gonna, like, you have somebody who is saying like sketchy like shit. It doesn't, like, whatever realm it falls into of being hate speechy. And if you go up to them and you go, yo, fuck you for saying that, like, I'm never talking to you again, and leave it at that, guess what that person's going to do? They're going to fucking double down. They're going to be like,
exactly.
Oh, well, you're a stupid liberal bitch. Fuck you. Like, that's how that's going to go. And and rather than going up to that person, especially if they're in your life, like, come on, people. You go up to that person, you're like, hey, I love you and I care about you, and I just want, like, so much more for you. And I wanted to talk to you about a thing that, like, you've been saying, because I wanted to ask you about your thoughts about that. Like, basically, like, sitting down and talking to people like they're human beings. Like,
we get so offended by when someone wants to do that, really, don't we? And we really shouldn't. Like, we really should we just sort of need to accept that we're all flawed. We all fuck up. We all make mistakes. And very occasionally, or maybe even very often, I don't know, but we need people to, like, we need an outsider perspective to, like, inform us of this sometimes, and just try and listen and learn from it, I think.
I like for example, and like, I totally said, like, the R word, like, for way longer than it was really appropriate for me to be doing that. And I totally justified it to myself because that was like, it was like a thing that, like, my dad would say, like, growing up, because again, he doesn't know better, and, like, that was part of the vernacular, even though it was harmful. So, like, I totally did that for way longer than I should have. And
I'm gonna confess that I have done that in the past as well.
I think that all of us fucking have, and it's the sooner that we all get way more comfortable being like, I did this thing and it was bad, but I learned, and now I'm not doing that thing anymore, and it's important for me to help teach people the way that I was taught. So it's like, you need to be paying it forward. You can't cancel people because you decided you're woke and you're, like, the fucking, like, queen of, like, you're canceled, you're not, you're cool, fuck you. Like, no, that's not how this shit fucking works. You want to educate people and, like, pay the woke forward. Like, you don't just get to hold on to it like, I'm better than you. Because that's so a thing. People will use performative wokeness as a way of feeling better than people. Fucking stop that shit. Like, you're not special. But, like, yeah. But, like, no. We need to be paying the woke forward. Now, there's going to be people who are receptive to what you have to say. And then there are going to be people who are, like, literally just, like, fundamentally, like, hateful people. But you don't know that until you have the conversation. So you at least need to start the conversation with them.
That's where the nuance comes in as well, isn't it? And that's where the several shades of grey comes in, where you go, okay, let's try to initiate this conversation, and let's try to have this in a calm sort of manner, and in a loving manner. And if it doesn't work, and if they continue to like hate speech, for example. I mean, hate speech is something generally. I'm very, very wary of cancel culture for several reasons. But I do believe that there are some times when maybe we should use it. And if someone's just being a hateful prick against, in a sort of racist sense over and over again, or a misogynistic sense, and you've tried to reason with that person and they just will not stop, I feel like that's the point where we start going, okay, well, now let's try and deplatform and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I feel that most people go towards the deplatform thing straight away, though. And that's a little bit, well, I mean, actually, to say most people, that's probably over the top as well. But I see a lot of people going to deplatform straight away. It's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an analogy for it. It's like there's a small chip fire and you call the entire fire department out or something like it's just that's a terrible analogy, but you know what I mean. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
So it's interesting that for me, the deplatforming I think is super necessary when like specifically like you don't want somebody to be continuing to do harm even when they're learning. So
Absolutely.
I think that's where some of like the deplatforming comes from. It's like you're basically taking that person out of a position of like power or influence, so that they can't be influencing people with their shitty thing that they're doing. So it's like basically you kind of like I'm here for like deplatform. Let them fucking get right, or like let them like talk about how they are changing. Like let them show you the process of what that's going to look like. Let like that person like give people the opportunity to do the right thing. As long as victims feel safe and feel valid and feel like accounted for and like they're not going to be continue to be like re-traumatized or re-hurt, like as long as the like victims are being protected like at all fucking costs, like I like the whole like send somebody like off into like the abyss to like never be heard from again doesn't make any fucking sense, because that's not reality. We can't put these people on an island. Like you can't send fucking J.K. Rowling to Get Right Island. We should totally start doing that. This is my grand impossible scheme is like, okay, so if you say problematic shit, we take you and we put you on Get Right Island, where you get fucking educated and you have to be able to pass a series of stringent tests in order to get back into modern society and be able to interact with people so that you're not subjecting your shitty views on them. That's my wildly unhelpful way of doing this. So whatever way we can find to make Get Right Island is, I think super important.
I think you have to go to King's Cross and run through into platform 3 and 3.25. I think it's something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting confused. I don't know.
Yeah, and then that's instead of the Hogwarts Express, the Get Right Island ship will pull up, and you just get on board. And when you get to the island, J.K. Rowling's there. So, she's just there. It's like magic. Yeah. So
I think that's the thing, though. But by the same token, J.K. Rowling has views on trans issues that I totally disagree with, but I don't have to sort of cut her out of my life. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't mean I need to eradicate her and pretend she doesn't exist.
So you can't pretend people don't exist. My way I feel like the best way to like the effective ways to like deplatform. Oh my God, there's a fucking goldfinch. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I put out a suet feeder in my yard, and I'm really excited because there are goldfinches at it, and I never see them.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
I mean,
cool.
I'm really into birds. Sorry, it's a thing. Anyway, so like, yeah, so. Oh fuck! I totally like lost my train of thought.
Talking Rowling,
bird brain.
Yeah, bird brain.
Bird brain. So one of the things that I think is like the biggest barrier to this right now is the fact that being Get Right Island for a person is fucking hard. Like there are few things that are more challenging than like sitting down with a person you care about in your life and helping them like deconstruct their internalized like misogyny or racism or homophobia. Like that's why people don't want to do it. They're not getting. You get a dopamine hit if you go on Twitter and you're like, "Oh my God, fuck you, you're canceled." You don't get a fucking dopamine hit sitting down with your brother or whatever to talk about their internalized racism and misogyny. Like, that's not fun. No shit, people don't want to do it, but it's necessary. It is work that is necessary. And I think that there needs to be a lot more of an effort to be mindful of that part of things, is that, like, it is hard work to do that. We owe it to each other to do it anyway. And when you're just canceling people, it literally, A, doesn't fix the problem. And it B, makes the problem worse because it can send that person, basically like isolates that person. Guess what kind of people don't get fucking better no matter what's going on? People who are fucking isolated. And the other thing that it does is it makes them feel like they should double down. And then it also takes them away from the people who know that they're doing the bad behavior. And they're going to go off somewhere else and do it, where the people don't know that that's a thing that is chronic for them. So I think that canceling people is probably honestly one of the worst like things that you can do when you want to really actually instate like systemic discourse changes. Like, so I don't know. It's hard. And it's like, again, like, who the fuck am I? I don't know. I'm just some bitch with a microphone, literally right now. But like, so like, that's my my living room prescription for solving systemic oppression. But like, yeah, not everything is like, there's nuance to everything. And that's the gray. Ta-da!
Yeah, exactly. Which is what the gray is about.
Yeah, I was like, there's 1,000 situations where everything I just said doesn't work.
I only really brought that stuff up. Because it happened. I happened to be listening to the record loads and loads and loads as this conversation was really exploding on Twitter, and it just seems so
I actually didn't know anything about that.
Right. Well,
I'm not on. I don't have a Twitter.
I'll send you a link, but yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I mean, I don't think it's again, to go back to this, I don't think there's a black or white answer. I think it's not clear. It's very several shades of grey, as you eloquently put it in that song. I'm super aware. Like, I do have like one more sort of question thread, which I feel like we could go off on a tangent, but I realise I'm taking shitloads of your time already.
Oh, you're fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You sure you're okay? Okay,
I'm great.
Amazing. Well, look, this is going to be another super broad subject, which I am just going to let you talk about for as long as you like. But you might have noticed there's an election coming up in your country quite soon, and really the only reason, really the only reason that I'm bringing this up is because you have a song on your first record called "Fuck Donald Trump." So I guess. So I mean, get off your fence. I don't know how you feel about it,
right?
But what are your I mean, we both are in Western countries that have really fucked up political situations at the moment.
Yup.
We could.
Yeah, y'all are
probably.
Oh God.
Oh, we're struggling.
Boris.
We're struggling.
Someone come get their mans. Like.
Yeah. This isn't me. This isn't British me going, ha, you've got a shitty president. Like, we're both fucked, right?
Oh yeah, it's not great.
No, it's not good. But obviously, with this election coming up, I was wondering kind of like, what are your feelings, your hopes for the future in terms of this upcoming presidential election? I did tell you it was a very broad question. I mean, I know that's huge, but I'm just, like, there's a lot. It's a point. It's a point where things could change, or it's a point where things could get significantly worse. And how important is it to have a voice in those times?
I mean, it's integral. Like, especially the marginalized, which that's my soapbox. Like, that is the Sharptooth soapbox is like more representation of marginalized voices. That's my soapbox in every situation in life ever. More representation of marginalized voices. So, any political system that inhibits that in any way, that shit has got to go. Yeah, our choices are like hardly choices. Like, it's like, okay, so you can fucking pick like narcissistic sociopath, like literally the worst president that's ever existed. Oh my God. Who like, I'm just waiting for like to get like bombed by North Korea, or like we get like annexed by North Korea. Like, I don't know. It's just like, who knows? Some crazy shit will probably we can't even, shit that has been happening is so crazy that like you couldn't make this shit up.
No,
so
you can't.
So it's like, I don't know how things can get worse.
Satirists are really struggling since Trump got in, because you can't satirize him, because it's like you can't make it up. Yeah.
I feel like satirizing Trump is like writing an article that's like Trump gets on stage and delivers very well thought out, reasonable speech. Like, that's satire. Like, today is like, satire is everything's normal. What a funny thing. It like is though. So yeah, I mean, is Joe Biden a better option than Donald Trump? Like, fucking marginally, but like, none of this is good.
Is that part?
We really wanted Bernie. Okay, we really wanted Bernie. Bernie's my guy. We have Bernie shirts. That was the thing we did for a while.
Right. Oh, as in Sharptooth had Bernie shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was like it was so funny. So this was during like the 2016 campaign. We have a lyric in one of our older songs called "Give 'Em Hell, Kid," and the lyric says "Burn it to the ground." And so we changed it to burn as in like BERN. And it's just like a live shot, like hardcore show live shot picture, whatever. Except my friend superimposed Bernie Sanders' head on top of my head. And it just says burn it to the ground. And 10 out of we are big Bernie supporters. We donated a bunch of money to his campaign this year. And now we just cry because apparently everyone is a fucking idiot and apparently doesn't want health care. I guess if you get coronavirus, you just want to die. Yeah,
I think that's part of the problem. I mean, in this country certainly, and it sounds like it's the same in the US. I'm not even going to pretend I know anywhere near as much about US politics as I do about UK politics, but it feels like people don't have options. I mean, you've just said there, you know, Biden is marginally better, but you know, and I feel like maybe that's why people are trying to kind of fight back. I mean, there's this whole God, it feels like we might move on to something else here, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but there's this whole sort of defund the police movement now as a result of everything that's happened, and it sort of feels like there's a sort of move towards vigilantism and anarchy because the systems in place have been failing us for so fucking long.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so here for any kind of public uprisings. I'm super here for. Whether you want to call like protests, riots, I'm so here for all of these things. They are all so important, like so important. And the more people who start putting like boots on the ground and like making their presence known in some of these spaces, like the better off literally fucking all of us will be. So, and yeah, just like, I don't know. That's important, is people literally showing up and like doing the work and not buying into like respectability politics bullshit, because I don't fucking have time for that. And neither do either of our countries, frankly. So, yeah, it's like the same people who like get pissed about like riots and stuff are the same people who like probably have like masturbated to like mental images of the Boston Tea Party. Like,
what a picture you put.
You're welcome.
What a picture.
My discourse is colorful and usually graphic.
I know what I'm doing as soon as this interview's over.
I know, right? Fired up.
Lauren,
I guarantee you that there's something adjacent to that on like YouPorn or like
almost certainly.
YouPorn what was it? Oh, Pornhub. Pornhub's the other one. Pornhub's the one that people talk about. Now, okay, if I had just said that, then it would have been like, oh, well, everyone knows that. Now it's like, we all know now what shitty websites I've gotten my porn from. I don't anymore. I pay actual sex workers to see their content. So,
is that something you need out in the public, or well, I suppose we can put that
I don't give a
shit.
shit.
Fine,
Leave it. Fucking, I don't care. People watch porn and people masturbate.
It is true. People do that. People do that. And we should own that shit. We should own that shit, and we should, put it out into the world and just be like, yeah, that's what
normalize conversations about sex. Normalize conversations about things that make us uncomfortable. And because there's also a lot of reasons why conversations about sex feel super uncomfortable, because they're rooted in systemic oppression. So every time you talk about masturbating in public, it hurts the patriarchy. So my friends, get the fuck out there.
To be
and
clear,
start being very open about your sex life. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to do that.
You're not saying that people should masturbate in public. We should.
No, not in public. Oh
clear.
God, no. I mean, if you want,
no.
there's totally you can find people who will consent to watch. That's super thing. Don't do it in public. No, consent's the number one thing here. Always.
Yeah. I just wanted to make that super clear.
Yeah. So Timmy in the trench coat. No, buddy, go home. We gotta go home. No, we're not doing that. It ain't that kind of party.
That feels like a really grotty place to end.
Yay!
I hope that's okay.
So I just need you to know, because so that might sound like, wow, we're ending on a very lewd note. But my band's nickname for me is Perv. So
is it?
Yes, because
oh God,
I talk about this shit all the fucking time because I just. Whatever, literally anytime I talk about my sex life, the patriarchy gets a knife. That's a thing. Women being talking about sexuality and owning it and feeling proud of it is that literally hurts systemic sexism and changes the public narrative. So yeah, so I'm not being a hoe and being TMI for me. I'm doing it for all of you. Because the patriarchy cannot be smashed alone.
It's weird. It's sort of, I feel, I don't even know if this is something I should confess or not, but I feel like I didn't even realize women enjoyed sex until I was 25. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd grown up with so
honey,
much.
They weren't. They weren't. I'm kidding. I'm fucking sorry. You're wonderful. You're a doll. I'm sorry. I'm just baby doll, sweet angel. No. You're good.
But there was
I'm taking the piss out of
you. But the reason I felt like that is because, sex has been so kind of rooted towards the male fantasy rather than female fantasy. So it feels like it's women always trying to please the man, and I do think that's it's something that's beginning to change. Maybe glacially, maybe not as quickly as it should do, blah blah blah, but I think that's why it feels uncomfortable, isn't it? And not that it should be, I'm not saying it should feel uncomfortable, but I think maybe that comes down to why it is. I don't know. Yeah, well, because
part of it so part of it is that it absolutely makes sense that you didn't it wasn't even a thought that occurred to you that women enjoy sex, because according to our public discourse, we are not supposed to. Nothing is geared towards female pleasure or female sexuality as a way of catering to those things. That is just not something that any of us have grown up with. And it's really only in the last 5 years that at least I personally have started seeing porn sites that are geared specifically towards women, or porn sites that it's all of these sex workers are insured and paid, and it's it is very very ethical porn. that's like a kind of like newer concept for some people, and that like stuff that is just kind of geared towards what women might want to see and what might feel better for like them to be watching. Yeah, that's like definitely a newer phenomenon for sure.
There's sort of the OnlyFans argument as well, in that OnlyFans is sort of, I mean, I don't want to, again, black and white say OnlyFans is a good thing or OnlyFans is a bad thing, because I definitely think there are nuances yet again. But one of the more positive aspects of OnlyFans, OnlyFans is a sort of site where you like upload your own content, and you have your own power. The power is given back to the person who is distributing that content themselves. So it's there with the sex worker or the person who the porn star or however they want to label themselves. They have the power, and they charge what they want to charge, and it's a subscription service. So I suppose some people are looking at OnlyFans now as almost I'm making this up on the spot, but almost like a feminist porn sort of way of doing things.
Oh yeah, I totally see that. Like that, it does feel like it is like, yeah, like it is the individual person's content, and they get to decide what it's gonna look like, how it's like, how it's gonna be received, how much people are gonna like charge for it,
gonna pay.
And and I just think that is awesome, and I think that it like helps to normalize and make sex work a lot more like feel like a lot more positive and empowering for people, and I just love that. I think that's great. I'm like extremely pro like sex workers. That like that's an important thing that like we all should just be learning a little bit more about and being like more mindful about, is like what that experience is like for either people who have like an OnlyFans or have worked in porn or stripping or like escort services. Like I think that we need to be hearing the perspectives of people working in those jobs a lot more, and like legitimizing them, because they are. And part of the problem is that like in my country they don't like prostitution isn't legal, which is fucking stupid. So like our culture still has like so far to fucking go with sex related stuff. Like, but
I was unsure about making sex work legal for a really long time, and then I went to Holland, saw how, I mean, it works. It works. Legalization works.
It does. It's like everywhere that has it like, come on.
It works. Yeah. You know, like women are, they have to get tested every couple of weeks. They get protection. They get security. They get, you know, there are so few arguments against legalization for that sort of thing that it's kind of crazy, or that it isn't legal everywhere. But I was skeptical about it until I saw it with my own eyes and saw how it was working, and I was like, oh, actually, this is amazing. You know, there are no issues with illegal sex work or anything like that.
Of course, there's
always few. You know?
Of course, but. Yeah, but overall, it's like, oh, these people are going to literally be able to take care of themselves better. Always. Yeah. Like, that is always a thing I want to lean into. If it is making people's quality of life better, like, we got to fucking do it. I don't know. I feel like that's such a absurd thing to be having to say, but I feel that way about, like, almost all the shit that I say in my songs.
I think sometimes we need to say the obvious, especially in this day and age.
I totally agree.
Like an old twat.
Well, it's true. It's like totally true though, because like it might not be obvious to somebody else, and that's why I do what I do. Because like, because there have been some people who have been like, oh, like, don't you feel like you're preaching to the choir or whatever? And I'm like, no, I don't, because you don't know who's going to agree with you. I've never thought that any of my views specifically were super radical, especially like a lot of the stuff we talk about like on Clever Girl. Like we would get like basically like, we're all these crazy radical activists. Like I'm just telling people not to rape people. I'm just telling people to treat people with mental illnesses better. Like I'm just saying, don't be a piece of shit who's homophobic. Like
don't be a dick.
Yeah, just don't be a fucking dick. And I'm like, why is any of this shit controversial? I don't understand the people who are like, very controversial band. I'm like, I don't think a lot of this is controversial if you're like a decent human being.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But
and it is, to bring this around to the beginning of the conversation, it is really, really nice it's fucking wonderful to have someone say it so eloquently and brilliantly. And it really is. I mean, as someone who reviews music every week and just gets disheartened by, another fucking thrash metal band that comes in singing about war, to the Sharptooth record was just a massive shot in the arm. And it's so fucking wicked what you're doing.
That makes me so happy. Thank you.
Good.
We worked really hard on it.
It's awesome. I thoroughly recommend anyone who hasn't checked it out yet, please do check out Transitional Forms by Sharptooth. Clever Girl is also very, very good. I think Transitional Forms is better though.
I think Transitional Forms is objectively fucking better. I will say that a million times.
Yeah,
my God, I've been trying to get people. That's why I've been so upset it's taking this long for the record to come out, because I'm like, I just want people to hear how my fucking voice sounds right now, because it is so different.
You should absolutely listen to it. I can't wait. I mean, obviously we don't know when you're going to come over and yada yada yada, but obviously I'm assuming UK shows will happen at some point. I'm assuming they're on the horizon, and it'd be awesome to catch up when you come over. And
I would love that.
We should hang out. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Lauren. You've given me loads of it, which is really, really kind of you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Yeah.